Gaming, I'm the Archmaster. So today we are going to give a little sneak peek into some of the things of my games, some of the we'll say classes. So in my game system, which is a straight up replacement for D&D 5e, if you like D&D 5e but you wish it was not broken, my game. So we are just going to tell y'all a bit about the classes themselves and what I've done with the place. All right, so 12 all new classes, but designed so that you can take your existing characters and ideas, like the actual concept of it, and transfer. You'll find some class or subclass or something that fits your idea, right? That's how it's designed. That's my hope and my intention. All right, so the way my whole world and the game system and absolutely everything that I make in my world and in the whole thing is four. It's the four pillars: freedom, power, status, and mystery, right? That's what everything is made up of. That's what all the games and all the world and everything, it's freedom, power, status, and mystery. If you take those four pillars and you apply them to characters, right? You come up with four archetypes. The archetype of the explorer, which goes to freedom, the archetype of the warrior, which goes to power, the archetype of the king, which goes to status, and the archetype of the mage, which goes to mystery, right? So I have 12 classes, 3 classes in each archetype. There are 3 classes in the Explorer archetype, so 3 Explorer classes. There are 3 Warrior classes. There are 3 King classes, and there are 3 Mage classes, right? I'll get to King in a minute because I'm sure you'll be like, King classes? So 3 Explorer classes. 1 is the Skirmisher, right? So a thing I fixed in D&D 5e, and of course everything is my own opinion, what I think is better or worse, what I think is fixed, right? But still, in my humble opinion, what I fixed in D&D 5e is that a big problem with 5e is the whole martial caster divide, where you have all these casters that can do cool stuff, and you play martial, and it's like, oh, you're either a fighter or a barbarian, pretty much, unless you want to be a half caster or a rogue, right? But if you want to play a warrior guy, you get fighter or barbarian, and fighter just does everything except rage, and that's pretty much the difference between the two. So you end up playing, if you want to play, 5 different martial characters that all do completely different things, you end up just playing the fighter every time, because the fighter does a little bit of everything, and it makes it kind of boring. There's too much stuff in the fighter. The fighter is just too full of everything, right? So I split it up. We have in the Explorer archetype, you have the Skirmisher. That's the first class, right? They are the light armor fighter, right? They only have light armor proficiency. They don't get medium. They don't get heavy. And yes, I have 3 types. And they have bonuses to their speed, they have bonuses to movement, acrobatics, agility, all that kind of stuff. Uses light armor and martial weapons to fight at blinding speed. So that's my short description of them. Something like the Swashbuckler Rogue, is actually in my system, the Swashbuckler Skirmisher. I think a rogue should actually be all sneaky and whatnot. I think if you're a Swashbuckler and you're moving around and you're dancing, and you have a lot of footwork and whatnot, that's a Skirmisher. You're a mover, right? So yeah. The next is the Skulk, S-K-U-L-K, Skulk. You skulk around, you're sneaky. That is what y'all would call the rogue. So the Skulk, actually, this is a great time to tell you about the one big change I made to the structural classes and subclasses in 5e. So in 5e, you have class and your subclasses, right? In my game, I have your class and your subclasses, but in between there's something. There's something called the path. And the path isn't so much like a thing you pick, like, you pick your class, and then you pick your path, and then you pick your subclass. It's not quite like that. It's that you have your class, and you have, these 2 subclasses over here and these 2 subclasses over here. These subclasses fall under this path, and these subclasses fall under this path, right? So you're not picking the path separately. The subclasses are tied to the path itself. So I'm going to give an example. You pick the Skulk, and there are 2 paths of the Skulk. There's the rogue, and there's the trickster. With martial classes, one path is going to be mundane, and the other path is going to have some kind of magicalness to it, right? So you pick a Skulk, you're going to be sneaky, you have all your class features for being a sneaky Skulk. You pick the rogue, and there are 2 subclasses of the Skulk rogue, right? There's the assassin and, I forget my other one. There are going to be a lot more than 2 subclasses, by the way, but yeah, there's the assassin and the mastermind. Cool. So those are the mundane ones, right? They aren't using magic; they're just using their skills. So you're still an assassin Skulk, right? But you fall under the rogue path because assassin is a subclass under rogue, right? But then you also have trickster. That's another path. So you pick a Skulk and you say, I want to choose the trickster path. There's the arcane trickster, and there's the psionic trickster, soul knife trickster. You could say it's the divine magic trickster, the any other type of magic you want, right? It's the other trickster. I forget if I actually have. No, I don't. Not in the playtest. But yeah. So you're still picking your class and your subclass, right? But you can look at these subclasses over here and say, oh, those are the mundane subclasses. They fall under the mundane path of the rogue. These are the magical subclasses. They fall under the magical path of the trickster, right? And so that's how I do it. It's so that the subclasses aren't just like hanging free. They're actually organized. It's like branches, right? Instead of saying here's your trunk and here's your twig, I say trunk, branch, twig, right? I put the connector between them so you can actually follow it better, at least in my opinion. So yeah, you have your skulk, and you can be a magical skulk, a trickster, or a non-magical skulk, a rogue. And then you get to Wayfinder, which is the third and last explorer archetype class. And the Wayfinder, instead of Ranger, which Ranger should absolutely not be a class, just letting you know, shouldn't be. There's not enough. It's not a strong enough archetype, right? If I say, what's a Ranger? You're like, well, he's a monster hunter. I'm like, guess what? That's all D&D adventurers. They're all monster hunters. This one guy has a monopoly on monster hunting? Give me a break, right? It was a bad idea, poorly designed. They put Ranger in there because Aragorn was a Ranger, and they did that 50 years ago, and then they've just kept it ever since because, oh, well, we can't get rid of it, right? It's just not a good idea. Being a Ranger, being one who moves around and whatnot, that's more of a profession. It's more just how you do it. Like you can be like the whole idea of, oh, the Ranger is the one that guards civilization from the wilds, right? He's the one that stands in the breach. He guards the borderlands, and right? Well, why couldn't a wizard guard the borderlands? Why couldn't a paladin guard the borderlands? Why couldn't a fighter or a rogue or a druid? Like any and every class can be a ranger. They can guard the borderlands and patrol and make sure that no bad guys get over the border, right? That's just a job. That's not a class, right? So anyway, the Wayfinder is the one that has a connection to the land itself, right? Skirmisher is all about speed and light armor. Skulk is all about light or no armor and like stealth. And the Wayfinder is about the land itself. Yes, you can use it for navigation, but in my world, the land itself is actually magical. All of the elements are magical. All of the land itself is magical, right? So having a connection to the land itself is actually really important. This would tie into things like adherence, which I don't think I've gotten into yet, so I'm not gonna totally sidetrack this video and talk about adherence. But the Wayfinder, if you were playing a ranger in 5e, you would be playing a Wayfinder in my game with some interesting twists, which I think would actually make it more fun. I think I'm gonna stop there. I'm gonna talk more about the warrior and the kings and the mages later because I don't want this video to be 40 minutes long. But yeah, this might be like a 4-video series. So yeah, like and subscribe, all that. Feed the algorithm, please. Thank you for watching, and God bless. See you later.